Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Congratulations on breaking the 24-hour Munro ladies record. I think you were the first lady to do this challenge. Why do you think it's taken so long for the ladies to attempt it?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. It was probably, I think, even the men's record, there was quite a long time when nothing really happened on that front. The record was originally set in, I think, by John Broxap in 1988, and that was in the kind of Glen Shield, Glen Afric area. But then it wasn't till sort of 2017 that Jim Mann broke that and added an extra couple of Munro actually. So I guess there was quite a long gap when nothing really happened either with the men or women, and then it's only kind of since then, since 2017, there's been kind of repeated attempts on that record that Jim Mann broke. In terms of the ladies, I'm not really sure why nobody had tried it before, because it does seem like I think it's a really nice kind of complete challenge. It's really sort of clear cut what you're doing, starting and finishing in one place, and just running as many Munros as you can. And it's the kind of, I think it's also a really sort of nice challenge in the sense that, there's a bit of kind of there's quite a lot of thought that can go into it. There's different areas that you could pick in Scotland, and you have to take into account the amount of ascent you're going to do and the amount of distance, and what the terrain's like, and it's kind of, I guess, quite fun devising different potential ways of addressing that challenge of trying to get as many Munros as possible in 24 hours. So I'm not really sure why it's not been kind of high on the list for the ladies, but I hope that by running, I guess, I hope by having set a challenge, that this is the start of
You've drawn a line.
A more popular thing, yeah, and hopefully other ladies will break it, and then and it'll sort of be hopefully I've just got the ball rolling.
It'll grow from there. Yeah. There seems to be a variety on the routes. What was your route, and why did you choose that one?
Well, I ran pretty much Jim Mann's route, and I ran from Invercoldridge Bridge even, and in a clockwise direction. The reason I ran clockwise is that I sort of that gave me a variety of options at the end, to do anything from, I guess, sort of 29 Munros up to 31. 32 potentially if I'd had a lot of time, but I didn't think that was going to happen. And for me, I didn't really know how it's a long time since I ran anything this long, or certainly nothing this long that was supported, because I've had a baby and there's been COVID, and so I wasn't really quite sure how it would go. So I wanted kind of different options at the end, in terms of how many Munros I was going to try and do, and this gave me, the way that I did it, gave me a lot of different choices at the end, in terms of cutting it shorter. I think Kim and Sasha both ran the opposite way round, and that gave them less kind of option of sort of ditching Munros at the end, but it meant that they had the kind of most runnable section at the end, which arguably was easy, would be better when she had tired legs. And obviously Kim was then adding on Breriac as well, so in terms of the men. But all of the rounds that have sort of followed Jim's since 2017 have all been based in the Cairngorms, and have all been based on a kind of pretty similar route, just with the additions, as people have added extra ones, just to increase the numbers, but pretty much the same kind of basic route.
Is that because the men are sort of setting out with a specific target in mind, so that they're not leaving themselves any options, if you like? Kim went out knowing he was just going to get one more.
Yeah, I think Jim went out originally and he had more options, but then once he I think broken the record, looking back, he thinks that maybe he could have added more on, but he was just keen to get back. Once he knew that he'd broken the record, he was keen to not take any risks at the end. And so, and then I think Sasha and Kim subsequently both probably went with the kind of approach of having a set target in mind in terms of exact number of Munros. It's an interesting challenge because it is that adds an extra kind of element to it, in the sense that you have to get back within 24 hours. So you might add an extra 2 Munros, but if that takes you 5 minutes over the 24 hours, then essentially that completely negates the whole kind of exercise, because you've not done it in 24 hours. So then it becomes a kind of balancing act and a kind of decision making at the end, and in terms of how much risk you're willing to take, because and I didn't know, for example, I didn't really know how the ground was on the descent from the final Munro, and so I had people with me that had a bit of an idea, but there was still a section that we did that was kind of completely new the way we sort of descended. So it's a little bit of a risk, because you by that point you only have a short amount of time to get back, and then you don't know how it's going to be.
Is that the bit where you were stuck the other side of a fence or something, and you were like, meet me over there?
No, that yeah. So the final section, the way that I ran it, I had a sort of, I guess it must have been like the 13-kilometer run in at the end, and the final, really the very last bit, when we were going kind of through the forest, the tracks sort of it all got a little bit indistinct, and we lost our way at one point. And then we ended up the wrong side of a river and an electric fence, and there was a bit of kind of bushwhacking and a bit of a sprint at the end as well, which is the last thing you want after.
Well, no, that
24 hours.
It makes the record even better if you can do all that with a bit of bushwhacking in as well. Do you, if you are over the time limit, do they just sort of, well, no, I suppose, does that mean the whole thing is just written off?
Yeah, I guess it would be. I mean, I hadn't actually thought of this, but my husband pointed out to me afterwards that if you arrived back at the bridge where your starting point, and you were just like a minute over or something, then the obvious thing would be to just sprint as fast as you could back along the way that you set off, because all you have to do is cross your point, cross your trace again within 24 hours. So as long as as long as you were faster then than you had been at the start, it'd be okay. But you'd have to be running faster than you were at the start. So that's
not really in the spirit of the challenge either, I suppose. would you do
end
it
up going round again, couldn't you?
Oh god, yes, right, start again. Would you do it differently if you wanted to go back and give it another go?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess if I had a really clear idea of how many I wanted to do, maybe I would try and go the opposite way around, the way that Kim went. I think if I went back, it would really be, I'd be going back because I felt that I had a chance of adding some more on, and I was excited about the kind of challenge of doing that. And I might do that in the future if I feel if I feel fit, and if friends are willing to, up for another day out on the hills. So I definitely wouldn't kind of, I definitely think that it's something that I might return to and do again.
Did it make any difference to your sort of mental state, knowing that whatever you did, you'd come out with the record? Is it a little bit like running a sort of a timed race rather than against someone else race?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I guess in some ways it was nice knowing that I could do 29 or 31, or if I was really struggling I could drop off at 27 and it would still be a record. I guess that was nice, especially coming back after the second baby and it's taken me a bit longer to get fit, and that made it a kind of nice challenge in that there wasn't a massive amount of pressure and I could still kind of achieve something, I guess, in that sense. At the same time, I think the way that I kind of approach running in general, running, racing, these sorts of challenges, is that I just want to try and do as best as I can anyway. So it doesn't, I sort of measure myself more against myself. And often I find that, with these longer things that I might be competing actually against the men when I do that. And then I'm sort of competing, then I compete against the men. So whoever I'm near in a race, or whoever I'm level with, then that would be the person that I race. So if that's a man, then that would be the person that I'm racing.
Wow.
So basically, if I'm going out, I was just racing I was running it to do the very best that I could do. And if I can, and when I can kind of challenge the men by doing that, then I find that quite exciting.
Well, but this is it. I mean, you are an outright winner of the spine and the outright record holder of the Pennine Way, or the spine record. Does that just give you a whole load of more confidence, knowing that you are as good as anyone else, and there's no categories involved? It is just, you can compete against anyone.
I guess I mean, the spine, I guess that it was, yeah, I guess it gave me some more confidence by, I feel that I've sort of felt that in kind of really longer races anyway. I think there's lots of other things that play into a long race, a long run, other than like just your pure kind of running ability. The way that you are able to look after yourself and the kind of decision making and all those sorts of things as well. So I think I've known for a while that once events get longer and it becomes more about stamina and kind of on all those other components that play into it, that I'm quite good at that. So I guess the spine just kind of confirmed that for me. But there's so many things in these things that come down to just how fortunate you are on the day and not getting an injury and all those sorts of things. So there was an element of luck as well. So but yeah.
I know you're very busy. How do you fit your training in around, being a mother and a job, and what keeps you motivated through all of that?
Yeah, so I do most of my training at 5. Sort of, I get up at 5 in the morning and train for like up to 2 hours before the day starts. I find if I try and do it later on for whatever reason, it's really, really hard to fit it in. So I work full time. So I train before kind of the kids get dropped off to childcare and so on. I work and then I pick the kids up. My husband also runs, so he tends to run more often either in the middle of the day or in the evening. And then we all kind of congregate for dinner and then bath time and bed. I just find that unless I've kind of used that slot that I have first thing in the morning, then it will, other things get in the way, and invariably there's other things that are more pressing. So I find that that's the best way to do it when everybody else is asleep, and then I can manage to squeeze it in. And in terms of, honestly, I think in some ways that I think it's really important to me, the running, just in terms of my mental health and kind of happiness. And it takes me into the hills. I love to be in the hills, and it gives me just kind of a time to just be me. It's a sort of a way of escaping the kind of stresses of work life and giving me a bit of balance to the sort of just to being a mum and being a vet. And I can tell, because there's the weeks that I'm injured, I find that I might be getting a bit more sleep, but in general, like, my mood goes down just because I'm not getting that release and that time to vent, and that sort of all the endorphins that you come with exercise. So for me, it's definitely a win-win situation if I can do some exercise, even if that means I get a bit less sleep. I would like a bit more sleep as well, but I wouldn't complain about more sleep. But I get by at the moment.
The running takes priority over sleep at the moment.
Yeah. As I say, I wouldn't mind a little bit more. Once the baby starts sleeping through the night, I'll relish that, I think.
That will improve.
Yeah.
I think you're doing the UT or Alta Tour de Monte Rosa this year. What makes you go abroad for a race, and why that one?
Yeah, so I guess we've probably, in general, sort of gone abroad in recent years, maybe once a year. We sort of feel with climate change and everything that we shouldn't really be traveling, at least not flying, more than once a year. But it is really nice to travel to big mountains. I mean, I think we're very lucky in the UK with the mountains that we have for running, especially up in Scotland. But nevertheless, it's not like the Alps and so on. So it is great to get into those big mountains with the huge views, and once you get up to the glaciers and so on, and it's pretty special. So there is something a bit different about actually getting into mountains like the Alps. I'm going to the UTMR the Alps and the Pyrenees. I'm going to the UTMR, and I'm really excited about it. I've only done 100-mile race before, I think, like in a kind of in one go, like in that 100-mile race, and that was the UTMB. And the UTMR, I think, is a bit more technical, and it's a little bit more low key. It's a kind of harder 100-mile race, and it sounds really friendly. It sounds like it has amazing views and scenery, and I'm really excited about going to run it. It just sounds like my sort of race. So yeah, we were going to go over with the whole family, but it's looking increasingly like that's going to be impossible because of COVID, so and travel restrictions. So it might just be me going a kind of lightning visit out and back again.
Yeah.
It's
the same, isn't it? Because it must be lovely to have your family there.
Yeah.
Having that at the finish, say, would be
I'm a bit disappointed about that, because I know that there's like a kids race the day after, before the prize giving and stuff, and I already imagined that we'd have my little girl taking part in the kids race. But I think because kids have to isolate and going over to Switzerland at the moment, then spending 10 days in isolation with the two children sounds like a nightmare.
Well, I was going to say isolation in Switzerland, but yes, I suppose if that's in a hotel in Switzerland, that's not not such a great idea. Oh, that's a shame. Are there any more races in the UK you've got your eye on?
I guess there's always races that I mean, there's like there's an ultra race in Snowdonia that I think would be a nice race to run. I always think, I mean, I've run the Glencoe Skyline several times, and that is a really excellent, like, it's a really wonderful race. So I definitely like to go back and do that again. And to be honest, I mean, I'm ultimately, my background is started as a fell runner, and I still feel that at heart I'm a fell runner. So this kind of real classic fell races in the Lake District, Wasdale and Buttermere being my favourites, and then Jura, which is a fell race in here in Scotland. Those races, they are really close to my heart, and so I still have some kind of ambitions in terms of trying to break some course records in those as well. So I'm very happy to do the kind of low key races here in the UK that are pretty special and that people don't really know about. Yeah,
definitely. Oh, thank you. Well, all the best at Monte Rosa. We'll definitely look forward to seeing how you get on there and watch your progress. And thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.
Thank you.